All right, go ahead.
Hey, guys. Good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever time it be your part of the world. And welcome to Aaron's Opinion. And yes, it is a pleasure to be here. And today, it's not Aaron doing the interview today, but it's Gavin, someone who he has interviewed previously. And today, in the hot seat, it's Aaron Richman himself. Hey, boss, what's up?
Well, boss, I'm doing all right, doing all right. I got to tell you, from the bottom of my heart, guys, and from the bottom of my heart to you, Gavin, it really is a tremendous act of courage and humility to be crazy enough and humble enough to be interviewed on your own podcast. Not to mention, I'd have to be a tiny bit crazy to be interviewed by the great Gavin Grippy. So so I'm really, I don't really know. I probably don't know what I just got myself into, but I got myself into it. So why don't you dig right in with a first big question? Go for it.
All right. So, firstly, I want you to tell us who is Aaron Richman in a nutshell?
Well,
Who are you?
in a nutshell, I have to get the nutshell in there. So, in a nutshell, Aaron Richmond is someone who was born on the 2nd of July, 1991. As I tell you guys at home, I was born with glaucoma and a congenital heart defect. And my academics are in the field of international relations, and I'm a teacher by trade. So I love to talk all day and educate people all day. This is what I do. So,
All
but
right.
what was going on was, I was listening to podcasts in the blindness community, and none of them were truly open and open-minded to, having guests and hearing opinions from all over the world. So I figured, well, I have a lot of complaints about society. Why don't I just record them and see where we end up? And then we end up with this wonderful, wonderful podcast and YouTube experience. So there you go. That's
Nice.
me in the nutshell.
Nice. Okay, so where is Aaron Richmond from?
Well, I'm from America, and I'm an
Hmm.
American person.
Hmm. Where were
Hmm.
you born and raised?
Well, born and raised, I was born in Washington, D.C., and I was raised in a small community to which, for personal reasons, I don't give it out on my podcast. That's a long story. But I was raised in a small community near Washington, D.C., a community where there was a lot of farming and a lot of agriculture and things like that. And when I was growing up in the 90s, growing up in such a small and rural place was a big deal because we didn't have Zoom, we didn't have the internet. So
Hmm.
nowadays I think it's interesting because it's not as it's not as consequential when you live in a city in America or the countryside. You have access to a lot of the same things now. So it's not
Yeah.
as big of a deal now that we're in the countryside, but
Hmm.
I am, yes.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So, how many do you have brothers, sisters? And where do you fall?
I do. I have a younger brother. My brother was adopted from Korea. My brother is not a teacher or a podcaster like me. He works for a marketing company. He's a businessman, let's say, and yeah, and he lives with us, and also his girlfriend lives with us a lot too. So it's pretty nice. Hmm.
Okay. How is it? You said you were born with glaucoma, correct?
Correct.
Uh, was it a case where when you were born you could see
Great,
perfectly, correct?
great. No. So apparently, when I was born, my
Hmm.
corneas, the outermost layer of the eye, was white, and no light
Oh.
was able to get in. So obviously,
Hmm.
I don't remember birth. I don't
Seeing
obviously
anything.
nobody really. So in other words, I don't remember being completely blind. I don't really know. When you're, the good thing is when you're a little child, you don't really remember stuff. So I don't really remember. going through a lot of things that have led my vision up to where it is today. But it's a very strange notion. It is, and it's a very strange thing to explain. Hmm.
Yeah. Uh, how was your schooling like?
Well,
How was your
schooling was so even though that I'm American and you're Jamaican, um, schooling for people with disabilities in the United States is still a huge obstacle. And I know that, we've talked about it before off and on, but I mean, I know it's surprising to you, Gavin, but even in America, there is still, in my opinion, profound discrimination against
hmm
people who are disabled. So simply
Yeah,
what I'm saying is being American does not make me immune to discrimination.
yeah.
Actually, I think that America is a grossly discriminatory country in a lot of ways. So schooling was very difficult, and my family had to, when I was a little boy, my family had to hire a lawyer, and they needed to, basically sue the school system where I was living so that I could have a teacher who was able to help me. And now, looking back on that decision, I realize it was the right one because, we're still friends with the teacher to this very day. So she's someone who has a lot of, she's a character. She's too shy to podcast, but she's definitely someone who I've, definitely has a personality that she's quite a character. So, yeah.
Uh, it must be, you talking, telling the world how it was for you, um, growing up, and especially through the whole school system and stuff like that. But how was it for you in terms of home? How was it for you in your home community,
Mm-hmm.
family members? How did they
Interesting.
take it? How was it for you?
Well, the first that's no one's ever asked me, and I've never given it any thought. I don't know how they took it. I actually know a little bit, and I don't dig into it too deeply. But I will tell you that for, of course, my parents, when I was born, of course they were sad. They were sad and shocked and confused. Why? They were planning for all sorts of stuff, and then the baby pops out, and then the doctor says, "Oh, the baby can't see." So whoa, like
That must be a shock. That must be
I
damaging
can't
to
I
the
can't
family.
fathom. I mean, I'm sure they cried. I don't know that they did, but I'm sure they cried,
It
and
must be.
they
I
must
mean,
have,
it's
and they, quite frankly, they should have.
yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
you work hard, and then the baby comes out and something's wrong. It's
And it doesn't
very
matter. It doesn't matter the type of disability.
no,
Because
it
you're
doesn't.
expecting a perfect child.
Right, you're
Want to
expecting a healthy
see, want to,
baby. And
yeah.
and even though that in some countries, having a disabled child is seen as a curse, not
Mm.
luckily not in Jamaica, but in other parts of the world.
That's what you think, huh?
Well, it might not. Well, there's some other parts of the world, Gavin, where they'll tell you, "Oh, well, we hereby curse your family for life because you have
Hmm.
a disabled
Oh,
child."
we have
Okay,
bad
nobody
food
look. Here's the thing. Okay, no mother wants to birth a disabled child. Okay,
No one.
but the fact is that it's still, even in America, a tremendous tremendous shock.
Hmm
So I can tell you that, I mean, I'm not an expert about it, and of course, as an adult, now that we're all adults, it's not nearly as big of a deal. But I'm sure that my father, especially, went through many years of sadness and confusion, and many years of learning about why. Holy moly. Um,
Yeah.
but it's really incredible. Um, it must be really really weird as a parent, and luckily both of my parents are college educated, but for parents who college was never a thing for them, which is actually the majority of the American population does not have a college degree, by the way, which is a myth that all Americans go to university. It's not true. So for Americans who do not go to a university, having a child with a disability is almost something insurmountable to them. So yeah, the immediate family though was fine. By the time I grew up and started to realize things, life goes on. Community, well, as I said, in my particular agricultural neighborhood, nobody really talks to each other. Americans don't really value socializing like people in your part of the world do. So they don't really interact. So nobody really interacted. And then the public, the public is not interested in people with disabilities. They
Wow.
simply are not. Yeah, yeah. The
Wow.
American public is quite cruel and quite unfriendly. I mean, it depends on the part of the country, but yes, that's the answer.
So, while going through school, you did the regular math, English, science subjects,
Hmm.
blah, 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 all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then I'm sure you went to college.
I did.
But before college, would you mind telling us what schools you attended before you went to college?
Well, I went to my high school in my community, um, and it was a mainstream school with students who are sighted. So,
I'm sure
in
you don't want to
America,
mention the name of that school, do you?
no, no, it's simply because it gives out my location. I'm a
Oh,
little bit
okay.
more I'm a
No
little bit more
problem.
private. No, thank you. I'm a little bit more private than
No
most.
problem.
But
No
anyway,
problem.
it really, but suffice it to say, the school was a mainstream environment where the students were sighted and all of that.
Hmm.
And the school wasn't interested in people with disabilities. But quite frankly, I don't know any time where public schools were interested in people with disabilities. It's just not. America went. The problem is that America went through a phase in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s and 70s where they would just put you into a big mental hospital if you had a disability.
Hmm.
And they were doing this, by the way, all of the way up until the 1990s. It was
Wow.
still socially acceptable to do it. They were doing it for a long time,
Wow.
and then eventually, it's a very long story. It'll get us really off track, but there was some media coverage of one of the schools that I really should not mention, and I really don't want
No
to because it's
problem.
very negative. But there was some really bad there was some really bad press, and then it was either President Reagan or President Bush, the father Bush, that made some comment like we need to did something and started to talk about it, and then we realized, well, it's just not socially acceptable anymore.
Yeah.
The problem though, okay, but here's the hidden problem. Here's what's lurking under the water is that the families who gave up their children to institutions, number one, once you institutionalize someone, you can't
You
uninstitutionalize
can't take.
someone. Right. Second,
Wow.
those are people, the parents who were willing to institutionalize their children are
Hmm.
unfortunately the type of parents who don't have the education and skills themselves to parent
Yeah.
their child. So we ended up with a big mess where we ended up with a society, a public sector that was never used to seeing disabled people because so many of the disabled were being hidden. And then the parents who weren't used to caring for the disabled child now had to care for an adult with a disability. So it really, America has really done a lot of things well, and a lot of things
Yep.
right, and
Hmm.
but the gap is approaching the issue of mainstreaming people with disability. That has been a
Yeah.
tremendous
Yeah.
flaw.
Yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So you went to school, and
Mm-hmm.
then you went to college. What did you pursue in? What did you? Uh. What exactly did you? The kind of field you pursued in
Well,
college.
exactly. I pursued exactly the field of international affairs. Because back in 2010, 2011, the world was totally different, and I thought that I was going to be able to just work in the foreign ministry, um, or as we call it in America, Department of State. Now,
Hmm.
that turned out to not work, and that turned out to be something that I don't have the connections to do, um, because even in America, connections are everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Believe it
Yeah.
or not.
Yeah.
So probably what ended up happening was I had a lot of opportunities to teach during the
Hmm.
university days, and through then I discovered that I'm a teacher, and then that's how I got into teaching English, and then the podcast and
Hmm.
content creation came later. Yeah. Hmm.
So you went to college, and obviously that didn't work.
Well, no, no, I graduated. So what happened was I graduated from the university with the
Mm-hmm.
international relations degree. So I have a bachelor's degree.
You do.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
right, right. But the didn't work part was the part that didn't work was that the working in the public sector didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had to kind of, well, actually, technically, I do work well, actually, I technically do work in the private sector now, but public sector meaning civil service, meaning that
Yeah, yeah,
part
yeah.
didn't really fall into
Mm-hmm.
place.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, the fact is, some people are just suited to work for themselves, and it seems like because I've been doing it successfully for 6 years, it seems like I'm one of these people that's just going to work for themselves. So, in my case, it didn't really kick me in the ass. It didn't really, it didn't really bite me too hard. But other people might have had more of a difficulty, if you don't self motivate and things like that. So, yeah.
And I'll say, so you went, you did college, all that kind of stuff. Why podcasting? Why? What actually happened that you said, you know what? I'm gonna go podcasting. This
What
is something I want to do.
what happened, as I said, was I was listening to other blind people who had podcasts, and
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that my opinion of them was that their content is great, but they aren't open to me. In other words, I love what they
Mm-hmm.
say,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
they won't talk to me, you know?
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
that really, that really turns listeners off. If you're the type of
Yeah, yeah,
podcaster
yeah.
that's distant, so I figured, why don't I just, start my own podcast and have my
Mm-hmm.
own complaint line, basically. Hmm.
And what year did you start? Did
Well,
you start
I
your
I
podcasting?
started about maybe 3 years ago, but it hasn't been until the last year and a half that things have gotten so serious. So I had a podcast under a different name, and then I changed the name, and it morphed into something else, and then I had a, I've kind of morphed it around. I've kind of molded it, kind of bent it around into the form that I want it to be today. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My other question would be why Aaron's opinion? Why
Well, because before, that's a very good question, because before it was Aaron's show.
Aaron's
And
show?
that's what it was a long time ago. Now that doesn't exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't do that anymore. So what was happening was other guests were saying, Aaron, if it's called Aaron's show, it kind of makes me sound arrogant and pompous, and that I'm not really open. And then it occurred to me, well, if I have a show that's called Opinion, then everything we say is an opinion, and nothing really can be a fact. So that makes it a lot more open and a lot more relatable to the guests. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So you said, the name, Aaron's opinion,
Mm-hmm.
uh, definitely would say, well, no one can quote unquote sue you for anything if you say, because, well, let's not get there because I'm about to ask you some questions right now. Okay, let's get into the meat of the matter, Mister Richmond. No, 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 no. Here's my question. All these questions are all opinionated questions. All right,
Right.
let's go. You were born in a country that a lot of persons would say are first world countries.
Right.
And because of that, a lot of stuff would happen, that any other countries would never ever have or never ever do. Do you think, firstly, that American cares in terms of disabled or the elderly or people like that? Do you think they care? Um, Not because they do have systems, or if they don't have systems, do you think they care enough to put them in?
No and no. I understand your question. The people don't care, and the society doesn't care. America is not a caring country. We are a succeeding country, a doing country, but we do not care. And we do not care. Quite frankly, we oftentimes do not treat people very well at all. Oftentimes in public places, but as far as caring for the elderly, the secret behind that is if you have a lot of money and authority as an old person in America, then you set up a plan for you to be cared for when you get too old to care for yourself. Most of the time, old people don't want to do that. They just want to live the best life they can until they're eventually taken into some sort of a hospice, hospital, nursing facility, something like that. Usually, people in America are dying in a hospital institutional setting, which is, of course, ridiculous. Uh, I mean, it's going to happen to every human on this planet, us included. So I would say, well, if it was up to me, I would want to die super, super, super old, but definitely in my own bed, own house, with my own people around me. That's what you want to aim. That's what you're trying for. But mostly in America, the health fails very quickly for people, and they end up in a situation, and so it's very, very difficult. So that's how the old people are treated, and then disabled people are either living independently, living in group settings sometimes, living with family members that care for them, or living with family members that take advantage of them. So it's all have its disadvantages for sure.
If you were the president for 1 week, how would you change things?
Perfect. If I was president of the United States for 1 week, I would, for one thing, I would pass a mandate, a federal law that said that once someone with a disability, first of all, the first thing we need to do is make sure that everyone who has a disability has the option and opportunity to obtain a university degree. That's the first thing that has to happen. So that means that I would write the law in such a way that all of the universities are required to accept disabled students when they apply to the universities, and that all disabled people need to be the people who are educated in the country. And then I would set up some sort of a mandatory work program where people with disabilities need to be in the workforce and in the public eye and in public places more. But it would be very hard to actually do that for many different reasons. But a lot of it is getting people with disabilities out into the into the workspace of the public, which is, of course, in essence, what I'm doing on YouTube or podcasting. This is the public, but physically, before, the pandemic times, more and more things were done in a in-person setting.
Okay. Wow, Mr. President. All right. Well, the thing is, I just think that, you know, a lot of places in the world don't have, either they don't have or they don't want to care or be held responsible for blind or visually impaired, the blind and visually impaired community. Um, the thing is, I I am somebody who, uh, even though no one knows, but you see, when it comes to the disability world, I don't care exactly what you are, who you are, where you are from. I don't care, but I rep, I represent you no matter what. And I think, well, do you think that the disabled community, do you think that they uh, are for each other? Do you think they, um, whatever happens in the disability world, do you think that they Um, do you think that they would help or want to help? Do you think if let's say um, somebody is in trouble in the disability world, do you think they would help stop what they're doing? And do you think they care enough
No,
against
no.
each other?
They oftentimes don't, and oftentimes just criticize each other rather than being helpful.
Why?
I don't know. It's a good question.
What's your opinion on it? Why? Why?
I think that
Why?
I think that a lot of the disability community has a very, very, very poor sense of self-esteem. And I think that
Mm,
has really affected things. As I said, there are an enormously high number of people with disabilities who are, should we say, disenfranchised, meaning they don't teach, they don't have a podcast, they really, they really have nothing. Quite frankly, they really have nothing to do but be critical, and it's
mm-hmm.
very, very unfortunate. But when someone is disenfranchised in America for a long enough period of time, they will be disenfranchised in America.
Yeah.
So it's very, very hard to recover things, especially if you're in your 40s. If you're in your 30s, you can try to recover certain things and get off your feet. But once you hit 40, if you aren't working, you aren't working. If you're fine, you're fine. If you're successful when you're 40, then you're fine. But it depends on that. So that's what I think a lot of it is. But outside of that, I don't know because it should stop anyway. Yeah.
If 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 you had to choose between Fidel Castro, Raul Castro, George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Bill Clinton, who do you want to be president again and why? But let me just say, if the Castros were Americans,
Oh, oh. So in other words, if the Castros were Americans, I was
yes.
confused for a moment. I thought they were Cubans.
No, yeah,
Oh,
they,
oh,
they are Cubans, but I'm saying if they are American citizens
right,
and they were tossed in the presidential pool,
right.
who would you choose and why?
Well, I would probably still go with the George H.W. Bush guy, just because, just because the President Bush guy signed into law the ADA thing. So just
Mm,
for that reason alone, that's a good reason. Mm-hmm.
that's a good reason.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. What are your what are your hobbies?
Well, of course, podcasting, creating content for you,
Obviously, has to be on the list, huh?
but listening to YouTube, watching YouTube videos, and listening to other podcasters all over the world. So that's a lot
Okay,
of what I
okay.
do. Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite dish?
Gnocchi,
What?
gnocchi. It's like a pasta. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Uh, do you love partying?
No.
Why?
Again, like I said, I grew up in a community where there weren't other people around me my age, so I never really developed. That's another thing. That's another problem with people with who are blind in America. They don't develop appropriate social skills. It's a huge problem. So I never developed socialization. I never had that real experience. So yes,
What's your favorite color?
red, like the shirt here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm wearing my Aaron's opinion shirt. You see, I have my own T-shirt.
Oh, So you
Mhm.
you only wear that shirt when you're doing an interview, huh?
R- Right, or at least, well, at least I only wear this shirt when I'm on my own podcast. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I see. If you had to choose between America,
Mm-hmm.
China,
Mm-hmm.
India,
Mm-hmm.
Jamaica,
Mm-hmm.
and Japan, where would you want to spend your life?
Probably Jamaica. You guys have a great country. In fact, I don't know why so many of you complain and move, because you guys have it all down there, man. You have the great weather, great food, be red stripe, all, all of
Have you
that.
have you been to Jamaica?
Well, no, but I've been to St. Lucia, so I kind of have an idea of what it's like.
Oh, I see. I see. I see. Have you ever been married?
Have I ever been married?
Yes.
No,
Would you want to get married someday?
no. We've already.
Why?
You know what? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You can't. You know what? Don't you remember my answer? I remember that we talked about this and we laughed really hard when I was interviewing you here on Aaron's Opinion about the marriage thing. And we laughed really hard. And you said,
Ay, 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 ay. I
so
remember distinctly, yes.
now I remember that scene. So no. Um,
Ay, 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 ay. I do remember that for sure.
that was a scene. That was a
I
scene.
do, I do, I do remember for sure. I do
Mm-hmm.
remember for sure. Who is or are your favorite actor or actresses? Wow. That deep breath. Are you okay?
Probably just thinking. Probably. Look, I don't really have a favorite actor or actress.
You don't.
Right.
Do you have a favorite type of movie?
Science fiction.
Favorite type of book?
Science fiction.
Nothing but science fiction.
I would say so. Mm-hmm.
Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why go there?
I go there because it teaches us, it teaches me what the consequences of our present actions will be.
Hmm. Are you a Christian?
No,
Okay. Did you grow up in a Christian home?
no,
Okay. You said you had no sisters,
correct.
but I'm sure you grew up with girls.
Well, no. Like in
See?
my immediate family, it's just my parents, my my brother, my mother, my father.
No, 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 no cousins, no nothing.
No, no.
Okay. If you had to if you had to uh go um to speak on something somewhere, maybe a school or a seminar somewhere, what okay, let me make it much easier for you. If you had to go to a college of visually impaired kids, what would you actually say to college kids who are visually impaired or have a disability, and they tell you, sir, I don't think I can do anything in life because I have a disability. What would you say to them?
I would say to that, I would say that what you do need to do in life is to figure out something that you enjoy doing that is a productive use of your time, and that the person should do that activity. Mm-hmm.
Did you ever play any form of sport?
Nope.
Do you want my honest opinion?
Yeah.
I would not want your life. Not
Re-
saying that to toss you aside, but I'm somebody who loves physical stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love well, I can't blame you
Right.
because of how you were growing up and
Right.
the community you were growing in. Because when I was growing up, well, I don't remember if I said this in my interview, but I grew up with cousins and aunts and uncles and all that kind of stuff. And during the summer holidays or whatever, we normally go to different, in the hunt different fruits and play different games outside and stuff like that. So yeah, uh, that's why I said that. So
Right.
if you had no family, well, no immediate families, I mean, no sisters, no brothers, no cousins, nothing like that,
Mm-hmm.
life must be a bit weird for you, wouldn't you say?
Probably it is, but it's the life I know. So it probably is weird, and I don't know that it's weird, but probably so.
You're not gonna know it's weird or feel weird because you're in the situation. If
Right.
somebody like me, if we had to exchange life,
Mm-hmm.
I'd tell you that would be weird
Well, probably.
because you've never experienced the things I've experienced as a child. I have not experienced the things you've experienced as a child. So if we had to exchange life for a day,
Hmm.
it would be so weird. You'd be lost in my world, I'd be lost in your world.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm.
I, did you did you go to a boarding institution?
Nope.
No.
As I said, I was mainstreamed in a public
You
school.
you had to travel to and from school, stuff like that.
Yes, but it was
Um,
about 5 or 10 minutes away.
walk, drive.
Dr- drive. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can you cook?
A little bit, yes. It
What's your what's your favorite dish to cook?
probably I would say gnocchi, pasta, things like that. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. What's what's one of your worst childhood memory you could ever think of?
It's a really good question.
What's one of your worst childhood
Yeah, yeah,
memory
yeah.
you could ever think of?
Probably, I would just say to answer that brilliant question, I would say that the worst memory that you have is having to, go through schooling and all of the different challenges that that brings on. That alone really wears you out, as it really wears you down as a child. So that would be the worst.
What would be the best?
Probably being done with the university and working and being
Get
able
it
to
all
earn
over and done, huh?
being able to be someone who earns money, because once you earn money then you start to have motivation for things.
Uh-huh.
This is the way that things are done in the states.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I see. I see. I see. So that's your worst and that's your best. If you had to choose an interview to do all over again on your show, which would it be and why?
Holy moly. I don't have a clue. I really don't have a clue. Because the
Come
reason I
on,
don't. The why?
come on.
Why should we? You know what? Why should we? Why should we redo Going Gopi? Going Gopi was perfect because it is. You did a perfect interview with me. So you see, there are things that I just think are perfect, and one of them is all of the perfect guests who have come here to Aaron's opinion over, over the years and months that this has been going on. Mm-hmm. So that is what I can say. But know that if you're a guest here, you're welcome to come back. So, mm-hmm. Go ahead again. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, go ahead. Okay. Are you there?
Go on.
Go ahead.
My other question would be, can you sing?
Yeah.
Y-
Yes
yes
and
or
no.
no?
Yes and no. As in, yes, I'm able. No, I'm not going to today. I have a lot of. I do that to get. I know all the tricks in the book. I do that to guests all the time. That's. Come on, man. You thought I was gonna fall for that? Come on.
Oh yeah,
Come
yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Come on.
yeah.
I don't fall for anything. Really.
Oh really?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Really.
If you if you if if you had a site,
Yeah.
what what would be your ideal job if you had a site?
I don't
If you
know.
had site.
I don't know because someone who's cited isn't me, and that's the best philosophical answer I could give you. So I don't know. Certainly there are
You
jobs
don't
that
know.
who knows. It's kind of beside were there jobs that I had a fascination with? Sure, at times throughout my life. Sure, everybody does, but that's not me.
Quickly, quickly. You said you're a teacher, huh?
Correct.
What do you teach?
Well, English as a second language. Mm-hmm.
English as a second language.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
How long have you been a teacher?
6 years.
High school, college,
Well,
uh,
most of the so it's an
primary school?
online school, so most of the students are adults. In their you know,
Okay.
mm-hmm,
Okay.
mm-hmm.
Okay. Uh, so you teach, you do private tutoring? Is that what you do?
Well, it's an established company, and they have an application that people put on their phone, and then the students learn English that way. It's similar to Skype, let's say. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
With a couple of minutes to go, are there any last words you want to say to persons who are visually impaired
I
or
hope.
have a disability, and for persons who want to go in podcasting?
Well, I think, first of all, I want to tell people that you guys should listen to Tell It Like It Is on UVC Radio. It seems to be every Monday at 1800 New York, 6 p.m. New York. Gavin does a great job over there. So listen to Gavin. He's doing a great job.
Yeah, that's 5 to 7 p.m.
Right.
Jamaica time,
You
6 to 8
you
Eastern
you
time.
got it. You got it. You got it. Definitely. So that's
There we
that
go.
UVC
There we
UVC
go.
radio UVC radio is a wonderful resource for people. I would listen to that. I would listen to Aaron's opinion, and I would always, as I like to say, always like to say that you should definitely reach out to me. On the public WhatsApp group, as I like to say in the intros and outros, 1240 6819869 or Aaron's Opinion 6 at gmail.com. But I would love to hear more feedback and really get some more traction behind these episodes, because it's really great. And I just wanted to say I would like to end the interview here, but I would like to tell you that I really appreciate you giving me the privilege to be interviewed by you on my own podcast. Not too many podcasters do it, but I think they should because I really enjoyed that and I really, really got a lot out of that. So thank you.
Well, thank you for taking the time out. I mean, I'm sure it was weird actually being interviewed on your own show.
Well,
But
I don't know.
yeah,
It
guys.
was all it was, you know what? It was all your idea and it was a good one. So,
Well, guys, it has been a pleasure. It has been a pleasure to sit here, um, interview the Aaron Richmond himself in live and living color. And I just want to say, enjoy life. Be you, be who you are, and like I always say, life has its challenges, life has its expectations. You have to choose the road you want to, and when you choose it, be assured that that's the one you will choose without regrets. Bye, guys.
that was perfect. And as we say here at Aaron's Opinion, thanks so much, everybody. Help one person today, help a million people tomorrow.